Good afternoon all, prynhawn da pawb a croeso, welcome to our Estyn Live this afternoon, where we're going to be talking about inspection in the post-16 sector, everything you need to know. Just some housekeeping to begin with. We have got simultaneous translation from Welsh to English as part of this. So if you are wanting to make use of that translation, if you can go to the three little dots with more up at the top of your screen, select language and speech, select interpretation and choose listen in English. And that will mean that you will be able to hear an English translation when someone speaks in Welsh. My name's Jassa Scott. I'm one of the strategic directors at Estyn here, and I'm joined by Ian, Joe and Chris this afternoon, and we'll be talking you through this session. I'm going to turn into Welsh now, so if you haven't already, have a go at starting that translation. So beth sy'n gwneud y digwyddiadau yma yn wahanol yw eu bod nhw'n rhyngweithiol. Rydyn ni wir eisiau ateb y cwestiynau sy'n bwysig I chi. Felly, please rannwch eich cwestiynau yn y sgwrs. So please share your questions in the chat. Bydd recordiad o'r sesiwn ar gael ar ein sianel YouTube wythnos nesaf gyda is-deitlau yn Gymraeg ac yn Saesneg. Rydyn ni'n cynnal y sesiynau yma tua diwedd pob mis, felly eich ein gwefan a chadwch lygad ar ein gyfryngau cymdeithasol am y manylion. Gallwch gofrestru am diweddariadau ar y wefan hefyd. Pwrpas y sesiwn heddiw yw tynnu'r dirgelwch oddi ar y broses arolygu a ceisio ateb eich cwestiynau, fel ei bod hi'n teimlo chydig yn llai brawychus. Dwi'n mynd allan ar arolygiadau yn aml ac yn aml yn cael cwestiynau am sut mae pethau yn go iawn. So rydyn ni'n ceisio ateb llawer o reini heddiw a hefyd roi'r cyfle I chi ofyn I beth dych chi eisiau ofyn yn uniongyrchol. So starting off then with just a little bit about the focus of inspection. The session today is particularly focusing on the post-16 sessions. We have done a similar session looking at schools, which you can find on that YouTube channel. And we don't want inspection to be a burden. We want it to be a natural part of your improvement processes. And today we'll be covering a range of post-16 sectors, so further education, adult learning, and we'll touch upon apprenticeships. We're in the process of reviewing our procedures and our inspection process for apprenticeships, so we'll be talking to our stakeholders a lot more about that over the next year. They're all slightly different, but we've tried to focus on what's common to give you some insight. And so, in terms of thinking about inspection, there's a few questions that generally come up. The role of inspection is to drive improvements for learners and to complement your own self-evaluation and improvement process. We know it can sometimes create a little bit of pressure. We've all been through inspections, but our inspectors will do all they can to ensure that inspection is a valuable professional learning experience for everyone involved, leaders, teachers, trainers, support staff, governors, board members, and of course for our teams as well. So since September 2024, we've introduced a wider range of activities, such as more learning walks, and built in more opportunities for professional dialogue. Following consultation with colleges, local authorities and unions, we've also streamlined our arrangements to reduce the burden of inspection. So there is really no requirement for extensive preparation. So the second question we have there is about how can providers best prepare for inspection. Well, I want to start by busting some myths, really. So the first myth is that you have to prepare specifically for inspection. This is false. We want to see what a provider is like day in, day out. Inspections are about understanding your strengths and areas for improvement. But there is absolutely no expectation that you change your normal routines to fit in with inspection arrangements. The second myth we often hear is that you need to create resources and policies specifically for inspection. Again, this is false. We only ask for a small number of documents in advance, things like timetables, safeguarding evaluation, and Ian will say a little bit more about this. You certainly don't need to produce or update anything, especially for inspection. Working documents are fine, and they don't need to be pristine or smartly presented. What's happening in the workshop, in the classroom, is what matters. Another myth is that teachers or trainers must write lesson plans for inspectors. Again, this is false. We don't require lesson plans, and I'll repeat that, we don't require lesson plans. What matters is learners' progress, the quality of teaching, and how well learners respond in the session. Inspectors might chat to staff about their planning, what comes next, and how they've prepared learners for the next stage of learning, but we don't require lesson plans. What is required by individual colleges and other providers is a matter for their leadership, but for inspection, no lesson plans required. The last myth I'll mention is that inspection is purely about judgments. Again, this is false. Inspectors will make evaluations. You as a provider will make evaluations as part of your eternal self-evaluation and improvement processes. We base our evaluations on a wide range of evidence, as I'm sure you do. Discussions with staff and learners, reviewing learners' work, looking at the progress they're making. Our aim is the same as yours, helping learners make the most of their time in their education and training with you. We will, of course, make an overall summary evaluation about whether or not we feel a provider requires follow-up, but we don't make any other overall judgments. The next question that is often asked by leaders is how they can support their learning community in taking value from inspection. Inspections are a chance to bring an objective external view that complements your own self-evaluation. It can bring fresh perspectives, highlight achievements, and provide insights into how your provider compares nationally. Inspectors visit a wide variety of post-16 providers and other settings every year and bring that experience with them. In all our inspections, there's a really important role. It's called the nominee. They're usually senior leaders who join the inspection team, engage in discussions and listen to all the evaluations that we make. And they've got a central role in maximising the value of inspection. They're present in all team meetings, so they hear firsthand all the detailed evaluation, much of which doesn't actually appear in the published report. So they're really uniquely placed to share the fuller picture with staff and governors and other board members and lead those discussions after an inspection. And everyone tells us how valuable that role is. And I'm sure we'll hear a bit more about that later. I'm going to hand over to Ian now to talk you a little bit about the inspection process before we talk to some colleagues who've been through that more recently.
Thanks, Jassa. My name's Ian Dixon. I'm one of His Majesty's inspectors in the post-16 team. I'm just going to spend a little bit of time explaining the before and the after of inspections in post-16, and then if you like, the meat in the sandwich, the majority of it is going to be, as Jassa said, the colleagues sharing their experiences having been through an inspection. Looking at preparing for inspection, what should post-16 providers expect in the lead up? I think it's really important to stress we don't want providers to try and estimate or guess when the next inspection will take place, tempting though that may be. The reason for that is there's no value in creating that anticipation and therefore often creating unnecessary pressure on staff when we're trying to remove the predictability of inspections. And Just important to realise there is no set time to between the last inspection and the next, as long as it's done within the cycle. How far in advance will the provider know an inspection's coming? You may be thinking that. It's slightly different in post-16 than it is in the school sector. So it's 15 working days in post-16, and that reflects the scale of typical providers in post-16, the multi-sited nature, number of partners, etc. So it's 15 working days. And the inspections may be a different duration. They don't always start on a Monday anymore. So the initial call may come on a different day. The initial call will come 15 days before the inspection's due to commence. JASA mentioned about documentation or evidence, and I'd reiterate what JASA said, that what we're keen to ensure is that we minimise the burden of inspection, and we'll only ask you for the minimum documentation ahead of the inspection, and that information is put in the virtual. You get the opportunity to put that in the virtual inspection room. The key thing is we want to see what providers are like on a day-to-day basis as normal, and what advice would we give to leaders and staff about getting ready for inspection without creating that unnecessary workload? We'd refer you to the Ready Already campaign, where some providers who have also been through inspection talk you through their experiences of inspection. And we do genuinely believe that providers are ready already, and we want to see things as they are. We want to see normal operations. If we move on to after inspection, what happens once the inspection's over? Then once we've done the formal moderation process and the team have reached a consensus on the draft findings, we have a feedback meeting to the providers. So we feedback to senior staff, governors, partners, etc. In terms of the report itself goes through a detailed process of quality assurance. We have quality assurance right throughout our inspections. So the reporting inspector or lead inspector, that some people refer to them as, they will quality assure the team during the inspection. Many of the inspections in post-16, we have in-person quality assurance by senior HMI or assistant directors, for example, JASA, will come out and observe part of the inspection, but also that moderation process. And then once the inspection's over, the draft findings go through a series of moderation stages, or quality assurance stages. And if, for example, a provider is placed in follow-up, there's an extra layer in there where that is moderated by the strategic director there. So, for example, JASA in the case of post-16. We also evaluate the performance of peer inspectors and associate inspectors as well. They go through a quality assurance process with inspector evaluation forms, and we then give the opportunity to the provider to do a factual accuracy check on the draft report before the report is published. Key person, as JASA says, is the nominee. The nominee has got the backstory, if you like, to the provisional findings of the inspection, and it's really valuable and important that the nominee shares that information with the senior leaders and staff. In terms of publication of the report, publication is quite speedy now. The report will be published the aim is within 35 working days of the start of the inspection. On some occasions, if it's ready before that, we've actually published early. We try and publish things as soon as we can. What kind of follow-up might be required? In the event of a provider being placed in follow-up as a result of the decision of an inspection team and following all that quality assurance process, then there's one category of follow-up in post-16. Again, that's different from pre-16, where there are statutory two categories, if you like, of follow-up. And in terms of that, if you want more information, look up the follow-up guidance for post-16 providers and inspectors on the Estyn website. If there is no follow-up, then the provider simply continues with the normal improvement journey. And it's really important to stress that as an inspector, we're not just about evaluating and judging. We are very much focused on supporting improvement. So there's that ongoing dialogue, for example, through regular link visits to post-16 providers, and they're a key opportunity to help support providers on that continued improvement journey. We do identify clear recommendations within the report, and we also occasionally identify spotlights as well, where we're looking at interesting or effective practice. And that's designed not just to help the provider, but the sector as a whole. Throughout the process, we engage in constructive professional dialogue with leaders and staff throughout the process. What should leaders do with the feedback to make the most impact? 4 things really that we point out. Firstly, try and embed the recommendations into improvement planning rather than have it as a sort of separate action plan. So embed it in that normal improvement planning process. Engage stakeholders. So the stakeholders will be staff, teaching staff, support staff, governors or board members, partner organisations and learners, to make sure that everyone's part of that improvement journey. Reflect on cause and effect. So although the report will focus on evaluating the outcomes of the inspection process, it'll also link it to provision and leadership as well. Try and use this analysis to focus on the why and not just the what that's been identified. And really importantly, build on the positives. And the positives from the inspection process, it's important to continue to improve on those. And again, really to plug the role of the nominee. They have a pivotal role in that improvement process, both during the inspection and really importantly, after the inspection as well. So to recap on that, after the inspection, there's a robust quality assurance process with all reports checked. That's 100% of them. We check the evidence, we moderate the outcomes, we scrutinise the reports at several levels, and we publish the report within that 35 days, having given the provider that opportunity to correct any factual accuracies. And I hope that gives you a clearer picture of what happens once an inspection ends and how providers can use the process for maximum impact. A couple of takeaways from me. We're here for the same reason as you are. The key purpose is to help learners get the best of their time in education and training, and very importantly, to help you improve in terms of the provision, the quality of provision through time. One thing we can promise you is the inspection will be rigorous. I don't think you'd expect anything less, but we want to see your setting as it is. And final words again from me, you are ready already. I'll pass back now to Jassa.
Thanks, Ian. That was really good, little bit of a walk through the process. Remember, you can use the chat. Please put your questions in, especially now, because I'm really pleased that I've been joined by Joe Tincello from Wrexham. I think it's Wrexham and Flintshire Adult Learning Partnership, actually, and Chris Ford from Merthyr College. Both have had the pleasure of being inspected by us over the last year or so. So, Joe, maybe to start with you, do you want to talk us through the process in the lead up to the inspection and how was that for you?
Yeah, thanks, Jassa. So as Jassa said, I'm the Adult Community Learning Engagement Contract Manager for Wrexham and Flintshire. It is one partnership. It's a fairly new partnership since came into formation in 2021, and our collective community learning grant is just in excess of 500,000. But we are obviously part of that wider network. I think we are the only network, someone's going to put in the chat that I'm absolutely wrong on this point, that commissions provision. So there's no direct delivery by the authorities in the disbursement of that grant. We have a procurement exercise and currently going through another procurement exercise because our 4-year tenure is up, to appoint a provider for the counties of Flintshire and Wrexham. So we are in a slightly unique position, but clearly our wider partnership is also really, really proactive. We're very blessed to have a really strong college. We've got Coleg Cambria, who are a member of our wider partnership, and we've also got Adult Learning Wales, along with lots of voluntary sector activities and community groups within the two counties. So we're very blessed with that kind of foundation. So obviously we got the call. I remember exactly where I was. I nearly spat my coffee out, I will not lie, but we got the call. But what happened very, very quickly was an Estyn follow-up meeting with the lead, which was absolutely critical in terms of my massive list of questions, many which Jassa and Ian have covered. Because as a first-time nominee, I mean, I've worked in the FE sector for many years, but I've never been a nominee before. And I think it was quite interesting in that role, and a very unique and privileged role, to be honest, to take, but a really good relationship with the lead inspector that I felt really, he was very accessible. You know, we could ask lots of questions. He produced a working document from that initial meeting to basically outline the expectations and the types of information that we needed to provide pretty quickly. And again, as Steve and Jassa said, it wasn't an excessive amount of documentation that they needed initially, and it was documents that we already had in place. So clearly, you know, self-assessment, DBS safeguarding information that was quite easily brought to hand. I suppose the complexity for us with our unique kind of relationship was the timetabling, because we were pulling in those timetables from all of the partners within the partnership, because clearly it wasn't there just to inspect the commissioned Community Learning Grant Commission provision. It was there to inspect ESOL and ABE, which clearly Coleg Cambria and Adult Learning Wales have a pivotal role in terms of the delivery. So that was probably the only tricky bit, but it wasn't anything that, you know, caused any sleepless nights. And again, I think it was really important to agree the processes by which we could notify the inspection team of any subtle changes within timetables and stuff. But all of that was really well articulated, well documented, and we built upon that working document in the weeks leading up to the inspection. In terms of cascading notice to the partnership, we were very blessed, and it was purely fortune that we had a management meeting arranged for the partnership that week. So we were able to cascade that notice to the partnership, but clearly also to our commission provider and other partners within that wider network. That was really, really helpful. And the focus for us operationally, which was time critical, which again was a big role for me as nominee, was managing the VIR contents. And I try to put myself in a position, because as you can imagine, I'm sure many colleagues will relate to this, everybody's keen to provide you with everything, and I mean everything. And a VIR can very, very quickly spiral into a massive collation of documentation. And I was quite ruthless with looking at obviously the inspection areas, but what would the inspectors want to see? What would I want to see if I was sat on the other side of the table? So we were quite lean with the documentation that we put into our VIR in terms of volume, but we felt it was really comprehensive and complete. So we worked really hard continually up to and during the inspection in terms of the management of that virtual inspection room. And that was it really in a nutshell. It was about the key of communication, making sure that we had those communication channels in place, not just with the stakeholders, but with the tutors. So there were various WhatsApp groups that were set up to keep people informed, to remind those tutors that they were ready already. So we did some briefing sessions on what inspectors, the expectation, but just to reassure them that they just needed to be themselves. That was the key really for us. So that was it in terms of a whistle-stop-tour process, really.
Great, thanks, Jo. That's really helpful. Chris, maybe if I bring you in now with a question. I'm sure colleagues would be interested just to understand quite how much provision did inspectors see during the week?
Yeah, thank you, Jessa. Prynawn da pawb. A lot is the answer. So there was a lot of provision seen, but I think we can look at this in a couple of different ways. I think we've got about 110 teachers at the College Merthyr Tydfil, and I would say that the vast majority of those were all seen once, and a number of those teachers were potentially seen twice. So yeah, a lot of provision was seen, particularly where with our teachers, they're often teaching across various subject areas, sometimes different levels of provision that would fit into perhaps different areas of focus. So they were the teachers that tended to be seen more than once because they were perhaps fulfilling more than one role and therefore fell into different inspectors' remits. So I suppose the negative there is that can feel a little bit overwhelming potentially for some individuals. But I think the positive there, the overwhelming positive, is that what you get then is a true accurate reflection of the institution and the quality of teaching and learning within that institution. And also that the individuals there are getting really valuable feedback. And I think in past inspections, perhaps some areas of the college perhaps weren't seen because there was a focus on sort of 4 or 5 specific areas. During the more recent inspection, we felt that that all aspects of the college provision were seen to some extent, and what that does then is sort of reinforce with the staff right across the college that everybody is in it together, and I think that was a really positive impact and positive message.
Great, thanks, Chris. Jo, you talked about everyone. Well, Chris just talked about everyone being in it together. Could you maybe touch upon how the inspection process did impact for staff and learners? And did they share any feedback with you about their experiences?
Yeah, I mean, what's really interesting, I'm sure, it's the same for regardless of the sector. I think you're just looking at the learners initially. Once those learners are engaged in those kind of focus group activities, they're very confident and very capable in telling you exactly what they think. And we were really clear on that front. And that's why I think that honesty, integrity of, tutors just doing what they do, don't try anything new to put on a showcase for inspection, because we just want to, they just want to see what's happening on an everyday basis. And the inspection team were really, as you would expect, were really well crafted in extracting the kind of information from learners that they needed in order to make their evaluations. And I think that was down specifically to the fact that they know the sector really well, and they could engage with those learners. And sometimes speaking to ACL learners can be a challenge because, just the nature of the beast, they've been away from education for a long time. So, it can be quite tricky. Staff, I suppose to lead on from what Chris was saying, there were a lot of staff who were disappointed because they weren't seen, because they were really hungry and had an appetite. and were quite proud, quite rightly, of what they delivered. So they really wanted to engage and have that opportunity. And we made that very clear, that it wasn't a case of a tick list that everybody would be able to walk through. What was good, though, I think, from the inspection team, they were keen for us to highlight areas that we think they would want to see. I'm not saying that they went to see all of them, but to show that variance and that richness of the curriculum was something that was really it was warming to hear, really. They wanted to look at the richness, and they relied on us to be able to say to them, well, that's definitely worth a look, because it might help you come to an evaluation on a particular area. And as I say, a lot of them were disappointed, but on the whole, it was really, really positive. And from a management perspective and the stakeholders' perspective, the one thing that we all took away from the inspection process was it gave us that collective headspace. Which I know we all strive to achieve, but very often, even when we're having management meetings and stakeholder meetings, it's very business and purposeful in terms of the areas we need to cover. And that sounds like I'm saying Estyn gives you a break, and I don't mean that, but it certainly gave us that collective headspace to be able to look at things holistically as a group. So yeah, did I enjoy it? I remember saying to the lead inspector, I think I almost enjoyed the process. I'm not going to say I enjoyed it, but it was certainly beneficial, and we learned an awful lot from it. Absolutely.
Brilliant. Thanks, Jo. So collective headspace, I'm taking that, and that's going in our comms. Thanks, Jo. Chris, what about you? What were your biggest takeaways or learning from the inspection? Did it feel like collective headspace to you as well?
Yeah, I think that collaborative element was probably one of the most important things, and being able to be in a position where everybody is making a contribution. I think, with the exception of the nominee, who's obviously got quite a unique role in the process, I think it's bringing everyone together and feeling part of the process without placing unnecessary burden on them. And I think that is true of sort of departments within the college that perhaps aren't on the front line. So, your finance department and your estates team and things like that, where they are all brought in and they are briefed in the same way that you are with your teaching staff and your managers. So a whole college effort, and I think it needs to be that if it's going to be a successful, a meaningful process. And if everybody feels they've made a contribution to it, then everyone has the right to celebrate at the end of the process, then when the inspection is complete. Perhaps unsurprisingly, communication. So the effectiveness of the communication can have a big impact on how people are feeling the inspection is actually going. So the more informed people are, I think, again, the more involved they feel. And there's a mixture of sort of formal and informal communication that needs to happen there as well. So it's the formal feedback of what you're receiving from the Estyn team and how you distribute that amongst the staff. But it's also more informal things, little check-ins with people, particularly newer members of staff who perhaps haven't been through the process before, getting a bit of a temperature check with them, making sure they're okay. And I suppose the other two big things, then, final points, consistency. So I think consistency is a big element. It's better to sort of really ramp up and highlight the things that you've got in place within the college that are going really well, rather than trying to introduce 100 new things in the 15 days from the call to the inspectors arriving on site. And I think, you may have a little bit of housekeeping to do. You might, want to check some of your posters and make sure they're bilingual and those sorts of things, or last minute checks. But on the whole, there's not a lot you can fundamentally change in a couple of weeks. So it's about focusing on those things that are genuinely there, genuinely embedded, and giving the staff confidence that they are the right things. So ultimately, it's about authenticity. And I think that's sort of reinforces that ready already message, really, that inevitably institutions are going to want to dial things up a little bit for that audience, for that Estyn audience. But ultimately, it's just flagging up those elements of provision that you're proud of, those projects and initiatives that are going really well, and not trying to wildly change your approach in the short time you've got from the call to the visit.
Brilliant. Thanks both. That's been really helpful getting your insights. And if you have questions that come to you after this session, then please do email us at the communications@estyn.gov.uk. We've got frequently asked questions in the Ready Already part of our website. So if you've got other things that we're not thinking of in those, then it's always great to have new questions so we can keep updating that to make it as helpful as possible for you. There's loads of information on our website. Remember, you can go there to access all the inspection reports, thematic reports, effective practice, our annual report, podcasts and all kinds of things, and these happen every month, so please have a look, sign up for that information. Thanks everybody, it's been really great to have you all here this afternoon. Thanks particularly to Joe and Chris for coming to share their experience of inspection with us, and hope you all have a lovely rest of the evening. Thanks all. Bye.
Thanks everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, bye.